Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand something deep today, something spiritual, something transformational, something that will shift how you look at life, relationships, and purpose. You were never meant to do this life alone. You were designed, yes, designed, to be in connection, not isolation. You see, we live in a world that celebrates individualism, the self-made man, the solo success story, the lone wolf. But let me tell you a truth that will change the game for you. No person is complete by themselves. That's not weakness, that's divine design. Think about it. Every part of your life that truly flourishes does so in relationship. Love is not complete without someone to receive it. Leadership is not complete without people to lead. Wealth creation is not complete without someone to serve. Purpose is not complete without partnership. We live in a culture that often glorifies the lone wolf, the self-made success story, the person who did it all on their own. It's a narrative that sounds empowering on the surface, but deep down it's misleading. The truth is, no one truly thrives in isolation. From the very beginning of time, we were designed for connection. The human spirit is not built to operate in a vacuum. Our hearts, our minds, and even our talents are wired in such a way that they reach their full potential only when they're in meaningful relationship with others. You see, needing others isn't a sign of weakness, it's a reflection of our design. There's nothing wrong with being strong, independent, and driven. But when that independence becomes a wall that keeps people out, when it becomes an excuse to carry every burden alone, that's when it starts to work against you. People aren't just nice to have. They are essential to your growth, your healing, your success, and even your joy. Think about it. From the moment we're born, we depend on others to survive. A baby can't feed itself, walk, or talk. But even as we grow older and more capable, that need for connection doesn't disappear, it just evolves. We may not need someone to hold our hand when we cross the street anymore, but we still need people to walk alongside us in life. We need encouragement when we're down. We need accountability when we stray. We need love when we feel unworthy, and we need challenge when we start to settle. The truth is, your strengths were never meant to serve only you. They were meant to serve others, just as their strengths are meant to serve you. It's a beautiful exchange that creates synergy, not just addition. When you operate alone, you multiply your limitations, but when you operate in connection, you multiply your potential. That's not a theory, it's a principle. And it plays out in every area of life. Look at the most successful people in any field. Entrepreneurs, athletes, artists, leaders, none of them got there alone. There may be one name in the spotlight, but behind that name is a team, a support system, a group of people whose presence and input made the dream possible. You might have the vision, but someone else has the strategy. You might have the fire, but someone else brings the focus, and when you bring that together, you stop competing and start completing one another. Isolation often comes from pain. Maybe someone betrayed you. Maybe people disappointed you. Maybe you've convinced yourself that it's safer to go alone than risk being let down again. But just because you were hurt in connection doesn't mean healing won't also come through connection. Yes, people can break you, but the right people can also build you. The same door that let pain in can also let purpose in. You just have to open it again. There's a lie that says if you need someone, you're not strong enough. But the truth is, recognizing your need for others is one of the strongest, most mature decisions you can make. It takes strength to be vulnerable. It takes strength to ask for help. It takes strength to admit that you can't do everything on your own, and that's not weakness. That's wisdom. You weren't made to carry it all. You weren't made to figure it all out. And you weren't made to walk this journey without others walking beside you. When you understand that connection is not a crutch but a calling, you begin to value the people around you in a new way. You start to recognize how powerful and purposeful every relationship can be. You stop seeing people as obstacles or distractions and start seeing them as gifts. So when you embrace the truth that you are not meant to be alone, not emotionally, not spiritually, not in your dreams or your struggles, you begin to walk in alignment with how you were created. You begin to thrive, not just survive. You begin to experience the richness of life that only comes through real, intentional life, giving connection, and that changes everything. Purpose is one of the most powerful forces in the world. It gives meaning to your existence, direction to your days, and energy to your actions. But purpose, no matter how strong or passionate, was never meant to exist in a vacuum. You can have vision, you can have drive, you can have incredible talent, but if you try to walk in purpose alone, you will hit a wall. Because purpose, by its very nature, requires partnership. From the very beginning, purpose has always been tied to people. The purpose of your gifts, your abilities, your dreams. It's not just about what you can accomplish. It's about who you're called to impact. That's why your purpose always involves others. You weren't just put on this earth to chase personal success. You were placed here to fulfill an assignment, and assignments are fulfilled in partnership. Every person who ever made a significant impact in the world did it through connection. Not one of them achieved greatness in isolation. Think about movements, revolutions, breakthroughs in science, inventions, works of art, ministries, or businesses that have transformed lives. Behind every one of those accomplishments is a team, a community, a partnership. One person may carry the vision, but it takes others to carry it out. You might have the blueprint, but someone else has the hands to build it. You might have the voice, but someone else has the platform. You might have the ideas, but someone else brings the strategy to bring them to life. That's the divine setup. Your purpose is tied to others, not so you can rely on them, but so you can collaborate with them. So that together you create something far greater than what you could have ever built on your own. And this doesn't mean you're not enough. It means your purpose is too big for one person to carry. That's how you know it's real. That's how you know it matters, because if you could accomplish your vision completely by yourself, it's not purpose, it's a project. Purpose stretches beyond your ability and calls you into relationships that refine you, challenge you, and ultimately complete the mission. Purpose-driven partnership is not just about efficiency, it's about transformation. When you walk with the right people, they don't just help you do more, they help you become more. They see the parts of you that you may overlook. They sharpen you when you're getting dull. They remind you of your calling when you start to drift. They pour into you when you're empty and pull you forward when you're stuck. That's the kind of partnership purpose requires. But for that to happen, you have to let go of the pride that says, I've got this all on my own. That mentality may protect your ego, but it will paralyze your purpose. You weren't built to be self-sufficient. You were built to be purpose-connected. And the longer you try to do it all by yourself, the longer you delay the impact you were created to make. Purpose also attracts people, but not just any people. It draws those who are aligned, not just available. And when you're walking in purpose, you'll start to notice who comes into your life, not by chance, but by assignment. These aren't just relationships of convenience. These are divine connections, people who are called to run beside you, build with you, believe with you. And when you recognize them, honor them, and walk with them, your purpose accelerates. Sometimes we think purpose is about what we can get done, but real purpose is about what we can build together. It's about creating legacy, impact, and change that outlives us. And legacy can't be built in isolation. It requires others who carry the vision when you're tired, who see what you see even when the world doesn't, who invest, who contribute, who sacrifice, not for their own glory, but for the fulfillment of a greater mission. So many people have the calling, but not the connection. They have the fire, but not the fellowship, and that's why they feel stuck. It's not because they're not gifted. It's because they haven't allowed purpose to lead them into the partnerships that unlock the next level. You are not called to carry your purpose alone. You are called to walk with others who help make that purpose complete. And when you stop chasing solo success and start walking in shared destiny, you'll see doors open that no man could shut. You'll step into rooms you couldn't reach by yourself. You'll fulfill dreams that seemed impossible, because purpose, when partnered, becomes unstoppable. Ego is a silent killer of connection. It creeps in subtly, making us believe that we're protecting our dignity, preserving our strength, or maintaining control. But in reality, ego isolates, ego builds walls where bridges should be. It convinces us that asking for help is weakness, that vulnerability is dangerous, and that needing others somehow makes us less. But the truth is, ego separates while humility connects, and connection is where the true power lies. When you allow ego to drive your decisions, you may appear strong on the outside, but internally you begin to drift. You drift from people, from purpose, from growth. Ego wants you to be the only one in the room with answers. It wants you to feel superior, to be admired, to never need a hand, but that need for constant self-sufficiency becomes a prison, because the moment you believe you don't need anyone, you cut yourself off from the very thing that's meant to elevate you. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself rightly. It's the understanding that you don't have it all and you don't have to. It's the awareness that your strengths were given to serve and your weaknesses were designed to be supported. Humility doesn't lower your value, it opens you up to greater value by making room for others. While ego says, "I've got this," humility says, "Let's do this." And that shift makes all the difference. There's a reason iron sharpens iron. We need each other to grow. No one becomes excellent alone. No one becomes wise without feedback. No one becomes whole without connection. It's in relationship that we're refined. You may be talented, but without someone to challenge that talent, stretch it, and draw more out of it, it never reaches its highest form. You may be driven, but without someone to balance that drive with wisdom or patience, you might burn out or veer off course. Humility creates the space for these relationships to thrive. It invites mentorship, welcomes correction, and fosters collaboration. It says, "I value what you bring to the table," and in doing so, it multiplies effectiveness. Ego, on the other hand, shuts that door. It says, "I've got nothing to learn from you," and that mindset leads to stagnation, because the moment you stop learning, you stop growing. Think of every great leader you admire, every truly impactful person. What made them powerful wasn't just their knowledge or their charisma. It was their ability to listen, to learn, to lean on others when necessary. It was their humility that made space for others to rise with them. That's real strength. That's real leadership. It's not about shining alone. It's about creating an environment where everyone can shine together. Humility also breaks the cycle of comparison. Ego thrives in comparison. It needs to feel better than someone else to feel worthy. But humility sees others not as threats, but as allies. It celebrates their strengths instead of being intimidated by them. It invites them to collaborate instead of compete. And in that spirit, something beautiful happens. People begin to trust, to open up, to connect. That's when teams are built. That's when families heal. That's when communities thrive. Humility isn't passive, it's powerful. It gives you the freedom to say, "I don't know, but I'm willing to learn." It allows you to admit when you're wrong without losing your identity. It allows you to celebrate others without shrinking your own light, and most importantly, it allows you to connect deeply with those who are placed in your life for a reason. Those connections are where your greatest breakthroughs will come from. Sometimes the very thing you're praying for, guidance, wisdom, opportunity, clarity, it's already around you in the people near you, but ego keeps you from receiving it. It closes your ears and hardens your heart. Humility softens you, positions you, and opens you to receive what you've been missing. It doesn't take away your power, it unlocks more of it. So when you choose humility, you're not choosing to be small, you're choosing to grow. You're choosing to invite voices that sharpen you, relationships that strengthen you, and partnerships that accelerate you. You're choosing connection over control, collaboration over competition, and unity over pride. And in that space, transformation happens, growth happens, purpose becomes possible, not because you had all the answers, but because you had the courage to let go of ego, and the wisdom to embrace humility. Growth is not something that happens in isolation. It doesn't happen in silence, in solitude, or behind the walls we build around ourselves. Real growth happens through people, through the conversations that challenge our thinking, the relationships that stretch our comfort zones, and the connections that reveal what we couldn't see on our own. You can study alone, you can grind alone, you can even start alone, but you can't truly grow alone. Growth requires friction, and friction requires connection. You need someone to see your blind spots. You need someone to hold up a mirror to you and show you what's working and what's not. You need someone who isn't afraid to say, "You're better than this." When you start to settle, that kind of growth doesn't come from a podcast or a book. It comes from presence. It comes from being seen, from being known, and from being called higher by people who believe in the version of you that's still becoming. Sometimes we think we can just work on ourselves in isolation until we're ready for the world. We think we'll grow in private and then show up in power. But the truth is, isolation doesn't make you better. It just makes you more inward. You start to spin in your own thoughts. You overthink, you second guess, you stagnate. Because without connection, there's no contrast, and without contrast, there's no clarity. You need people in your life who think differently than you, people who have experienced more, people who have walked roads you haven't walked yet. Their perspective can become your shortcut. Their pain can become your wisdom. Their success can become your blueprint. But that only happens if you're connected, if you're open, if you're willing to not be the smartest person in the room and instead be the one who's hungry to learn. Growth through connection also brings accountability. You can make promises to yourself and break them without consequence. But when someone else knows your goal, when someone else is watching, checking in, challenging you to follow through, you start to rise. Not out of pressure, but out of purpose. Accountability is not control, it's care, and it's one of the greatest gifts connection brings. You grow more when someone believes in your potential than you ever could when you're left to wrestle with your doubts alone. Even emotionally, healing and growth go hand in hand, and both require people. The wounds in your life that came through people can only be fully healed in relationship. You can learn all the right things in therapy. You can repeat affirmations. You can write out goals. But if you never re-enter safe, vulnerable, honest connection with others, part of you stays guarded, part of you stays stuck. Growth is about reopening, risking again, trusting again, and that happens in community. There's also a type of inspiration that only comes through others. Sometimes someone's story wakes up something inside you. Their resilience gives you strength. Their breakthrough reminds you that yours is possible. You could be sitting in your room wondering if you're enough, and one conversation can snap you out of it. One connection can restore your fire. That kind of transformation is not abstract, it's human. And it only happens when you're surrounded by the right voices. You also grow in love, in patience, in humility, and in forgiveness. And none of those things grow in isolation. You don't learn how to be patient until someone tests your patience. You don't learn humility until you have to serve without applause. You don't learn love until it costs you something. You can't practice any of these things by yourself. They only take root in the soil of relationship. So if you're serious about growth, personal, spiritual, emotional, or professional, you have to ask yourself, who am I growing with? Who am I allowing to speak into my life? Who am I listening to, learning from, sharpening against? Because the truth is, the people you surround yourself with will either accelerate your growth or stunt it. And that's not just motivational talk. That's a fact. Your growth is not limited by your potential. It's limited by your willingness to connect. You don't need more willpower. You need more alignment with people who are where you want to go, who call you higher, who tell you the truth, and who walk with you while you grow. When you find that, when you embrace that, everything begins to shift, not because you've changed your whole life, but because you allowed connection to unlock the next version of you. One person can make a difference, but two people in alignment can create a movement. When you look at history, innovation, and transformation, there's a consistent theme. Collaboration multiplies power. One voice can inspire, but a chorus can ignite a revolution. One spark can light a flame, but when many flames come together, they create a fire that can't be put out. Together, we are not just stronger, we are unstoppable. There's a certain limit to how far you can go alone. You can push, grind, hustle, and stretch yourself as far as your own strength and capacity allow. But eventually, you hit a ceiling. That ceiling isn't always talent, it's not always resources, sometimes it's just isolation. Because the truth is, your individual capacity will never match the potential of collective effort. That's why some of the greatest dreams require the presence, input, and energy of others to fully come alive. Togetherness is not just about companionship, it's about convergence. It's the collision of purpose, passion, and power between people who are running in the same direction. When two people align in vision, when they combine their resources, when they commit to the same mission, what happens is not addition, it's multiplication. 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 2. In unity, 1 plus 1 can equal 10, 100, even more. That's the power of synergy, but this type of unity doesn't happen by accident. It happens when egos are laid down. It happens when the mission becomes bigger than any one person. It happens when each individual brings their best, not to outshine the other, but to complete the picture. There's something deeply powerful about people who come together not to compete, but to contribute, not to lead alone, but to lead together. That's when things shift from effort to impact. Sometimes we underestimate the role of others in our journey. We think that if we're talented enough or hardworking enough, we can do it all, and maybe you can do a lot. But there are things you will never access until you partner with the right people. There are rooms you will never enter, stages you'll never stand on, breakthroughs you'll never reach until you link arms with someone who complements what you carry. Your strength may be in the vision. Theirs may be in the execution. You might carry creativity, they might carry strategy, and together you build what neither could have built alone. Even the greatest solo achievements often have unseen support. For every public success, there's often a private partnership behind it, someone offering wisdom, encouragement, prayer, feedback, or correction. It's easy to think someone made it on their own when we don't see the team, the friends, the mentors, and the believers standing behind them. But the reality is, no one rises alone, we rise together, and it's not just about building success, it's about building legacy. Legacy isn't what you do for yourself, it's what you leave for others. And to leave something lasting, something generational, you need people who will carry the torch with you and after you. You need people who see what you see, believe in what you believe, and are willing to sacrifice to see the vision through. That's why unity isn't just powerful, it's essential. There's a reason isolation drains people. There's a reason loneliness is linked to discouragement, to fear, even to burnout, because we weren't built to carry the weight of our callings alone. Togetherness brings perspective, energy, laughter, support, and resilience. When one person falls, the other helps them up. When one person loses hope, the other speaks life. When one person slows down, the other carries the pace until they're ready again. That kind of support creates unstoppable momentum. In any movement, there comes a moment where what you've been building needs more than just your hands. It needs hearts, it needs minds. It needs people who are just as committed, just as passionate, just as hungry to see it succeed. And when you find that, when you find your tribe, your team, your partners, you stop surviving and you start soaring. You were never meant to walk this journey alone. You weren't designed to carry your mission solo. You were made for community, for collaboration, for covenant connections that don't just push you forward, but walk with you to the finish line. Because when we come together, fully present, fully committed, and fully aligned, we become a force that nothing can stop. Dreams become reality, visions become movements, and purpose becomes legacy. Together, we are truly unstoppable.